Hello and welcome to the Liz Experiment YouTube channel. I'm your host Liz, better known as the Liz and the Liz Experiment. And this is the channel where I record field notes from my journey towards architecting my best life. And this week I talk all about some thoughts I've been having on time. I am here again in Edgewood, New Mexico. I'm still house sitting for my friends in my last week. And I guess as I get towards the end of this month in New Mexico, I've been thinking more and more about, what time means to me. So let's talk about time.
Life's a foolish game. Do you ever feel the same? Well, maybe we could change. Turn the ship another way.
So a friend and I went up to Santa Fe today, which is about about an hour from where I am right now, to this place called Meow Wolf, which is an interactive experience. And if you're ever in the area, I highly recommend going. But as we were coming back, after she dropped me off and I was driving back from Albuquerque, I was thinking about what did I want to talk about this week? What have I learned or what have I worked on? You know, those of you who watch frequently, I kind of always say, I learned these things this week and I worked on this stuff in this way or whatever. And as I was reflecting on my week, it was a very productive week, especially work-wise, but even just kind of socially and friend-wise. But really, nothing stood out as a lesson learned, except maybe it's an ongoing lesson of time and my thoughts on time. Let's just put it that way. There's no way to dance around it. And so there's time as a factor of, I think that I should be using my time in this way. I think a lot of us think that way. Maybe not everybody, but especially people who tend to be a little bit more or a lot more type A, like myself. So there's that kind of like, what should I be doing with my time now that I've kind of figured out a lot of the logistics of my life. And when I have time, what should I be doing with it? Should I be doing more with it? So there's that aspect of things, but there's also this aspect of, especially being a business owner and starting a new business with my business partner. And I shouldn't say new necessarily because we've been in business for a couple of years, but you tend to think there's no instant reward. That's what I want to say. This kind of like, I think what we expect in life, I'm going to put the work in and I'm going to get an immediate reward. And what I'm learning more and more, especially as I kind of start this study on successful people or people I want to emulate in my own life, is that that's not really the case. So last week, I talked a little bit about this book I was reading, or I finished, called Good to Great. And I'll provide a link to last week's video down below. But in that book, I talked about it last week, was that what I realized is these companies didn't go from good to great overnight. There was consistent work that was put in over a pretty expansive period of time. And what I've thought about a lot this week is the pressure that I put on myself to get things done, work or otherwise, in a certain amount of time. Like I always feel like I'm behind. Like I should be catching up. Like there's some measurement, some judge that I should be checking in with and I'm not. Like I feel super far behind and super out of touch with, I don't want to say out of touch. I feel far behind and I also feel unsuccessful. And again, that's more than just work. Despite the evidence in front of me, right? Like my business is doing well. My business partner and I are making money. We aren't incredibly wealthy like we'd like to be, or like all of us would like to be, but we're not losing money, which is a very telltale sign of a successful business, right? On the personal side, I have amazing friends that I count as my family. I have family who supports me. There's nothing in front of me that's telling me that I'm behind. But I just have this feeling like I'm not doing it right. I'm not doing life right. And I think time and this pressure of, I'm saying time a lot. Sorry, but that's just how we're going to roll this week. I think that this pressure of getting things done within a certain amount of time is part of that. And if you have these feelings, please let me know. I could just be crazy. I welcome that advice as well. But um, so one of the incidents that happened this week is a well-known he moderated several president or many presidential debates and was a co-founder of the PBS NewsHour, Jim Lehrer, and he passed away this week. And what I read in his Wikipedia page, by the way, huge fan of the PBS NewsHour, who's with me? Anywho's. So I was just reading about how, the PBS NewsHour didn't come into his life until he was in his 40s. Of course he was working hard before that. Of course he was doing great things before that. But it's not as if by the time he was 25, he was a multimillionaire, I don't know, doing PBS NewsHour. His life's passion took time to develop, and it took the time to put his work in to manifest it. Similarly, I'm also reading Michelle Obama's book, Becoming, and I'll provide a link to that down below as well. And her story is interesting. Her book is wonderfully written. She did find success as a corporate lawyer in her 20s after going to Princeton and then Harvard Law. But it's not like she became first lady in her 20s or 30s. It's not as if she, as a corporate lawyer, was incredibly fulfilled and happy in her 20s and 30s. She was successful, but she wasn't herself yet. And that took a lot of time for her as well. And so I guess the biggest thing I learned this week and the biggest thing that I worked on was really owning that I'm not behind with anything, and neither are you, frankly. Nobody is setting a schedule. Nobody is measuring that. And the people who are most successful, who we admire, or who I admire anyway, most of them have taken the time to become themselves through rigorous investigation and hard work. And so that's what I learned this week. And that's what I continue to learn this week. And that's really what I've been working on. And I honestly, that's where my mind has been most focused. And so I would love to hear from you guys what you think about this topic, how you've thought about this topic, because especially in this world of instant gratification with technology, I think we forget that a life is built. It's not just written and finished. It happens over time, and we can ignore that and pressure ourselves into thinking that we should be better or more or here instead of there, or we can accept it and enjoy the journey. So I don't know. I'm trying to lean more and more towards the second part of that, and I would love to hear what you have in that regard. And that's really it for this week. It's a shorter one. Next week, I will be no longer in New Mexico. I'll be in the Pacific Northwest, probably somewhere in the Columbia River Gorge. Until then, I want to thank Hans Adam and Featuring Snowflake for the music that I use in the intro and outro. I hope that you guys liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, or if you didn't, give it a thumbs down. But if you give it a thumbs down, you better tell me why you didn't like it in the comments. Matter of fact, if you give it a thumbs up, I'd like to hear why you liked it in the comments as well. If you want to get these videos every week in your inbox or in your YouTube alert station, please hit the subscribe button right down below. And until next week, thank you so much for watching.